A very big misconception among the RV community is that turning off the water here relieves the water pressure in your RV's plumbing lines. A very common practice among RVers who use the pressurized city water connection is to turn off the water when leaving the rig for extended periods of time. The reasoning is simple. If you have a leak while you're away, turning off the water at the source will prevent an endless river of water filling up your RV through that leak. That's great in theory, but the problem is at this wet bay fitting. Inside this fitting is a check valve that allows water in, but does not allow water back out to the hose. So when you turn off the water source and relieve the pressure between the hose bib and the camper, you're only relieving the pressure up to this fitting. Everything after this fitting is still pressurized. And the most likely reason you're going to have a leak in the first place is because of that pressure in those lines. Now, the same misconception holds true if you're using your fresh water tank. Turning off the water pump does not depressurize the lines after the pump, because just like the check valve we have at the wet bay, the water pump also works as a check valve. So if you're leaving the RV for extended periods of time, turn off the water source if you're using city water, turn off the pump if there's water in your tank, open a hot and cold faucet in the RV for about 5 seconds. You don't need to completely empty the plumbing lines, you just want to relieve some of the pressure. Now, while you're away, you don't have to worry about that inside pressure causing a leak, and if you do get a leak, you have the water source off so you won't get, like I said earlier, that endless river of water filling up your RV. Welcome back to another episode of RV Tips and Travels. I'm Ross, and today we're covering some common RV misconceptions, and I'm going to show you why they are just that, misconceptions. Okay, another misconception is that your sinks and showers always drain into a gray tank and your toilets drain into a black tank. This is usually true, but not always the case. Some RVs are plumbed, so certain sinks will drain into the black tanks instead of gray tanks. If your RV is plumbed this way, it's usually the case with the bathroom sink. However, I've had viewers let me know that their outdoor kitchen sink also drains into the black tank. At the end of the day, we're all draining our tanks into the same place, but it is important to know. Because tank sensors aren't really the most reliable device on an RV, I think a lot of RVers aren't paying attention to them. We're just dumping our tanks on a schedule based on our experience. But if your RV is plumbed this way, your black tank can overflow if you're not paying attention to how much water is running through the bathroom sink. The good news though is that it's something very easy to determine and you only need to check it once. So after you've dumped all your tanks, close all your gray tank valves and open the black tank valve. Then go back in the RV and turn on one water source at a time. After a minute or so, if that water source drains into the black tank, you'll see water flowing through your clear elbow. And if you have multiple gray tanks, you can use this method to determine which sinks and showers drain into specific gray tanks. So when it comes to water heaters, there's a bunch of misconceptions that I want to cover today. So we're going to work through these one by one. So there are basically two different designs of water heaters in RVs, ones with a water tank and ones without a water tank, often called tankless water heaters or on-demand water heaters. Today, I would like to discuss some misconceptions on the water heaters with tanks. You probably have one of two different styles. It's either going to be an aluminum tank or one with a porcelain-lined steel tank. Now, the majority of water heaters manufactured in the US are made by one of two different companies. One brand is called Atwood, who has recently been bought out by Dometic, and the other brand is Suburban. Now, while both of these water heaters are going to do the same thing, heat up your water, they hold the water in the tanks using different principles. The Atwood Dometic water heaters have a tank that's made of aluminum. Now, aluminum does not rust. Aluminum can corrode, but rusting and corroding are not the same thing, and that's a different topic for a different day. On these water heaters, they use a drain plug that is made of nylon, and it's nylon for some very specific reasons. First, nylon plugs obviously won't rust, and the second reason is because they're more cost efficient than using a non-rusting metal plug like aluminum or stainless. And this is where we find our first misconception. Because it's a nylon plug, if the temperature or pressure gets too high inside the tank, somehow this nylon plug is going to de-thread itself and push out of the tank to prevent the tank from exploding. It's definitely not true, and I've confirmed this with Dometic engineers. The T&P valve on the water heater is the fail-safe for extreme temperatures and pressures, not the nylon plug. The amount of pressure and temperature needed to de-thread and push out a nylon plug is going to need to be so high that by that time, the T&P valve has already opened and is doing its job. A nylon plug, if properly installed, is never going to shoot out of the water heater. Or at least per the manufacturer, it's not designed to do that. Okay, over to Suburban water heaters. They have a porcelain-lined steel tank. Steel is subject to rust, so instead of using a nylon plug, they use what's called an anode rod. It has something anything to do with chemistry and giving up electrons. I'm not a chemist, so I'm not going to pretend I understand how it works. What I can say with certainty though is that the anode rod sacrifices itself and corrodes so the inside of the tank doesn't. Now that we know some water heater tanks use nylon plugs and some use anode rods, we can now cover the misconception that there's some hidden benefit to swapping these parts between water heaters. Nylon plugs and anode rods are not interchangeable. A porcelain lined steel tank needs an anode rod, so it should never be deleted, and an aluminum tank gains zero benefit by introducing an anode rod. So if your water heater has a nylon plug, stick with the nylon plug. Same thing goes for water heaters with anode rods. Always replace it with another anode rod. I refuse to charge our viewers to watch any of our videos. They're all free for everyone to watch. Our channel sponsors make this content possible, so I would like to thank today's video sponsor, RVmattress.com. They have a nice selection of mattresses for all budgets, and they have the oddball RV sizes that you won't find in a residential mattress store. You'll find the RV bunk, 3 different RV king sizes, and the short queen, among others. Their website will point you to the right mattress based on how you sleep. Shipping is free. They come with a 10-year warranty. If you don't like your mattress, you can return it or exchange it for a different model within 120 days. And honestly, we slept so well on our mattress that we got another one for our house. Use our link and discount code down in the video description and receive 30% off your mattress. Okay, you have some bad electrical connections. Slather on some dielectric grease and call it a day. Dielectric grease is not going to clean connections. It's also not going to increase conductivity. In fact, if dielectric grease is not used correctly, it can actually handicap electric current. So electrical terminals are manufactured to make as much contact with their counterpart terminal. And when they don't make contact, a couple different things could happen. First, resistance increases. You can get electrical arcing, reduced current flow, voltage drops, all of which can damage the electrical components they're powering. Excessive heat also builds up around the terminal, which could obviously cause a fire. The purpose of dielectric grease is to insulate terminals so they're not exposed to the elements that can cause corrosion and oxidation. Dielectric grease is an insulator, it is not a conductor. An easy to understand example of the correct application of dielectric grease would be applying it to the porcelain section of a spark plug. This will create a seal between the non-conductive porcelain and the spark plug wire boot that keeps the elements off the plug when they are connected. In the RV world, another application would be applying them to battery terminals after they've been connected. Because the terminal has already been tightened down, you're not going to get any grease between the terminals. Instead, you're insulating the exposed parts of the terminal from the elements. Another misconception with dielectric grease is that it's great for RV connections. The problem with some RV connections, more specifically your power cord, is they are constantly being connected and disconnected. This means grease is constantly moving around and is more susceptible to getting on the terminals themselves. Your power cord is exposed to the elements, and because it's grease, it will attract dirt and dust, which is kind of defeating the purpose anyway. I'm not saying that dielectric grease can't or shouldn't be used on RV terminals or RV connections. I'm just saying it's going to be more effective on terminals that aren't constantly being connected and disconnected, like spark plugs or battery terminals. Personally, I don't even really use that much dielectric grease on my RV terminals. I've never really had the need to. Instead, usually about every 6 months or so, I use a terminal cleaner. I use the CRC Electronics cleaner. I'll link to this and all the other products in this video down below. It's non-conductive, so just spray it on and wipe off, or you can even let it evaporate. You'll be surprised how much dielectric grease you won't need if you just periodically clean your terminals. All right, guys, I got one more misconception for today's video, but before we get to that, if you're enjoying or learning something from the video, let us know in the comment section down below. Please hit that like button, and we hope you consider subscribing. Low point drains are on the lowest point of your plumbing system and will therefore drain all the water out of your system. There's some truth to this. They are positioned on the lowest point of the plumbing system, or at least they should be. More on that in a second, but there are plenty of locations where the plumbing lines rise up. Low point drains will also not drain any water that has already passed a check valve, a vacuum breaker, or a faucet. And there are some manufacturers who unfortunately are building low point drains that are not at the lowest point of the plumbing system. I exposed this in another video. I'll link to that video down below if you want to watch it later. All that said, low point drains should be positioned at the lowest point on the plumbing system, and for all of those reasons, opening low point drains is not a shortcut to winterizing an RV. There's a few situations where opening low point drains can come in handy. First, in some cases, you can actually get more water out of your water heater by opening the low point drains versus opening the drain plug on the water heater itself. It's also an easy way to drain after a camping trip, so you're not using stagnant water on the next camping trip in a month. But it's not a shortcut for winterizing an RV, it's not gonna get all of the water out of your system, not even close. Don't forget to join our newsletter. I'll put a link on the screen right now. All products in this video are linked down below in the video description. There's also a lot of coupon codes to save you guys money on stuff that you're already buying, so definitely check those out. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something, and we'll see you in the next video.